Welcome to DonzyTech. In this tutorial, we'll talk about classes, objects, and then JSON file we have in JavaScript. Okay. So to get started, I'll just create a folder and I'll name this folder JS. Okay. Inside this folder, I'm going to create another folder, assets. Okay. Inside this folder, I'm going to keep some image files inside it. So let me just open the assets folder and then create one folder to contain my image files. Okay. Then I'll create one also to keep my CSS file, and then one folder to keep the JavaScript files. Okay. Or you can also choose to keep them inside your root directory. It doesn't mean anything, but you always have to structure your files well so that anytime you get an error, you know where to find each file. Okay. So inside here, I'm just going to create one HTML file. I'll name this file index.html. That's the file extension for HTML files. Okay. And then inside here, the asset folder, I'm going to create one file inside the CSS folder. Just click on the CSS folder here, and then I'll create style.css. Right. And then inside the JavaScript folder, so click on that, and then just create one JavaScript file, so main.js. So in the HTML, I'm just going to create the basic HTML file structure. Let me close this off. So here I'm just going to change the title to classes. This is the pipe objects and then JSON. Alright. So here I'm just going to leave it blank. I'll link my JavaScript file to it. So I have it in the assets folder and then the JavaScript file. I'm going to save for the CSS, so link assets and then the CSS folder and then the CSS file. Now let's work with the JavaScript. So when we say a class in programming generally, it's just like the blueprint for objects. So anytime you create a class, it means that any object that will be created from that class is supposed to have all the features you have in that class. Okay? So like the class just creates the structure for each object. Okay. So an example can be like, you can see class student. So you can have a student class here, and then inside this class you need to use a constructor to specify the attribute you want each object to have. Okay, so here you pass in the features. So a student should have a name, maybe a roll number, student should have a gender, and then you can ask for the age of the student as well. Okay. So the constructor function runs anytime this class is being instantiated or a new object is being created from this class. Okay, so anytime you create a new object from the class, this constructor runs, and then you'll be able to assign these properties to that particular object. Okay. So you have to do this dot name should be equal to name, and then this dot roll number should be equal to roll number, and then this dot gender should be equal to the gender, and then lastly the age. This dot age should be equal to the age. Right. So now we have created a constructor function. So if you want to create a new object from a class in JavaScript, you just create a variable for that object. So let's say let student1, let me just use this for short, and you use a new keyword followed by the class you want to create the object from, and then you pass in the parameters. So here you can see name, roll number, gender, and age. Okay, you are seeing any because in JavaScript you don't specify the data type. It can accept any value at all. Okay, so the first one is the name, so I'm going to keep that in a string. Let's say John Doe, followed by the roll number. Let me enter some random numbers here. This could be the roll number of a student, and then the age. Let's see, sorry, the gender, so male, and then the age can be 30 something or any value. Okay, so if I console log this, console, let's just do log for short, student1, right? Now let me go live and then view this in the console for you to see. Now if I open the browser's console, you should see the student here. So here we have student, and then you can see the new object you created. So student, you have the name, the gender, age, and then the roll number. So this is how you can create an object from a class in JavaScript. Okay. Also, you can access each property of that object. Okay. So student dot, if you want the name, just say student dot name. It's going to print the name of the student for you. You have John Doe. Similarly, if you want the roll number or age or any other attribute you specified here, you can use the dot to access all those properties. All right. So now in classes, we have what we call methods. Okay, so method is just a function inside a class. Okay. So a student can have a method like, let's say, learn. Okay, student, this is just a function here. So any function you write inside a class is called a method. Okay, the student can have a function, let's say learn. Okay. Now let me just create a message here. So message, this is just a normal variable in JavaScript. I'm going to use the backticks. So anytime you use the backticks, you'll be able to pass a string and then a variable together in the same variable name. Okay, instead of you doing the concatenation, this is more easier to work with. You can say you can write the message like, let's say, this dot name likes learning a lot. Okay, this is the message. Now let me just return the message here. So now if I see student1 dot learn, since it's a method, I'm going to bring this bracket here. And I'll get this message in the console. John Doe likes learning. Okay, so if I create another instance here, let me say student2. Let me change this to myself. The age is 25. Let me change the row number to a different number as well. Alright. So now if I do student1.learn, the method is going to affect the first student. In the same way, if I want to run it on the second object, I say student2.learn. Okay, so you see my KSL like that. So the this refers to that particular object. So the this keyword refers to that particular object. So this dot name is the name of that particular object. That's why the name keeps changing. So if I run the same method on the student1, I'm going to see the name will get updated to John Doe. In the same way, if I change it to student2, the name is going to update to Mike SL. So the next thing we talk about is inheritance. Just like the name suggests, inheritance, like getting features from a parent to a child. Okay. Now let me take this off. Okay. So here I'm just going to create another class, the class of a user. Okay. Now the user, I'm going to specify just username, email address, and then phone number. So the user is going to have these properties: username, email address, and then a phone number. So we need to instantiate this. So I'll just say this dot username is equal to username. Then this dot email address should be equal to the email address, and then this dot phone number should be equal to the phone number. All right. So now we have created a class, and then you specify the attribute any object you are going to create should have. Okay. Now let me just create a new object and console log that. So let's say user1 should be equal to, use the new keyword anytime you are creating a new instance of a class. Okay, user1 is equal to new, and then followed by the name of the class. Then you specify the arguments or the parameters you pass to the constructor function. Okay, so your username, you can have John, email address, you can say john@gmail.com, and then the phone number, say any random number. Okay. So now if I do console.log user1, I should get that details. Okay, so the username, John, phone number, and then the email address. Okay, so now inheritance simply means a class inheriting features from another class. Okay, so you can create, let's say if you want to create and you want to create a different class, let's say programmer. Okay. And then you want a programmer to have the features of the user here. You need to extend it to the user class you created earlier. So now this will be the parent. Okay, the user class will be the parent, and then the programmer will be the child, because the programmer is inheriting features from the user here. Okay, so in here we are going to use the same constructor function here, and then we specify the features we are getting from the user, the argument we pass it. So let me just copy the same thing here and then paste it inside the constructor here. And this time around we can add a new feature. Okay, so the programmer can have, let's say scale. Let me do skills for short, and then the programmer can have years of experience. Let me just do experience. Okay, I think this okay. And then we need to instantiate. But the new thing we do here is that instead of rewriting this dot username is equal to username, since we are inheriting, just use the super here, and then we pass in the features we got from the parent. So we got the username, the email address, and then phone number from the parent. Okay. Now this skills and experience, we added it to the program. We need to instantiate that as well. So you say this dot skills should be equal to skills, just like we did here. But this time around, since we are inheriting from the parent, we don't need to instantiate it again. Okay, and then this dot experience, should be equal to experience. So now let me take this off and then create a new programmer. So let programmer, always remember to, you can use lowercase for your class names, but by convention you have to use a capital letter for any class you create in your function. But if you use lowercase, it's going to be okay. So here let me say programmer1 should be equal to, then always use a new keyword anytime you are creating a new instance of a class. Okay, followed by the class name, let's say programmer. So you can see here we have the attributes we got from the parent: username, email address, phone number, and then the new ones we added, the skills and then the experience. Right. So first it will have a username, let's say John, followed by the email address, so john@gmail.com, and then we have skills, maybe yes for short, and then the experience, let's say 5 years experience. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4. I skip the phone number. Let me just put any random number here. Alright, so now if I console log programmer1, I should get it in my console here. Okay, so now we have programmer1, and then we have these details: the username, skills, phone number, experience, and then the email address. Okay, so now you see the purpose of the super here. So the super just gets the details from the parent here. Okay, that's why we didn't do this dot username is equals to username, because we have already done it here, and then we are extending it to the user here. Okay. The programmer will now inherit the features from the class here. which is the user. Okay, so basically that's all maybe you need to know about the class and then objects and then inheritance in JavaScript. Okay, but there's more you have to look up to, but this is just the basics. Okay, so if I have, let's say, a method here, let me say registered. Okay. Let me just return a message here. Let me use the backticks. Okay, so your $sign and then this dot user name is registered on the platform. Alright, so if I run this method, since I've inherited everything from the parent, the programmer also gets access to all the methods inside the parent. Okay, so if I do programmer one dot registered, it should work. Okay, so you can see John is registered on the platform. Alright, so any property here inside the parent will be inherited by the child. Okay, so you notice we didn't create this method inside the child here, which is the programmer, but we get access to it because we have inherited it from the user. Okay. So now here I'm going to create a different object. Okay, so here let's say let person should be equal to, and then here you write a key, just like you write a JSON file. Okay, so you need a key and then a value. Let's say John Doe. Okay, and you can have email underscore address. That could be john@gmail.com. Okay, then you can have a phone number. That's phone number. See, it's just a random number. All right. So now if I console log person, I should get it in my console, right? So this time I didn't create the object from a class, right? So we just created a variable and then we use this bracket, specify the key and then the value. So now that's how this works. So for you to get access to this value, you need to use the key, which is the name. So you just say dot name. Right? So this will get the name from that variable and then print it for you. So John Doe. All right. So this is another way you can create objects in JavaScript. So now let's talk about the JSON. Let me go back here. So I'm just going to create one JSON file here. So I'm going to name this product.json. Okay. So .json is just a file extension for JSON files. Right? So I'm just going to start creating the JSON file inside an array. Okay, so I'll be able to look through them. So now there's a syntax for JSON. You use double quotes, right? The product can have a name, so let's say product underscore name, and then you write the name of the product. Use double quotes, okay? Let's say biscuit, right? And then you separate them with a comma. So you add the next product. Let's say product underscore price. Let's say 30 cedis, and then add one more product underscore image so that I can get the image for that particular product. Okay, let me just copy the URL to a product online. Okay, let me just for biscuit images. Right. So I'm just getting some random images and using it to this project. I'm just going to copy the image address. Right. Let me see if that's the image address. Copy image address. Alright, I think that's it. Okay, so now this for the URL is very lengthy. Let me get something short. All the URLs are very lengthy. Let me check on Splash. So biscuits. let me get this particular image, copy image address. Yes. Let me take this off. Yes, this makes sense. And then I'm going to create the next product. So I'm just going to separate it with a comma. Okay. But to save time, I'm just going to duplicate this. Alright, I'll just change and do this biscuit 1 and then biscuit 2. Let me change the price to 500. Let me get another image there. So copy image address. Image address and then paste it there. Alright. Now I need to save for the third product. Let me just hit this. Okay. I'll change this to biscuit 3. Let's say 400. Let me get another image for that. Let me use this. And then biscuit 4. Let me get this image for that. Let me add 2 more. So biscuit 5. And then biscuit 6. Okay, so let me just change the values. Let me guess 300, 250, and then 340. Okay. So I need to update biscuits. I need to update biscuit 5 and 6. So let me get 2 images, 2 images, 2 images, 2 images. Load more. I'm going to get this image by still loading. Let me use this to save time. So copy image address and update this biscuit here. Let me use this for the last one here. Okay. So now we have this product here. Okay. So now after we have the JSON data, we need to fetch it inside the JavaScript and render it on our HTML file. So to make this thing a bit fast, I'm just going to use Bootstrap for that. Okay, so from the Bootstrap main website, let me check. From the Bootstrap main website, you are going to click on the documentation. I just need their CDN links. I'm just going to copy the CSS file here. In my project, I just paste that the link. That's the CSS file. And then I need a JavaScript as well. So I'm just going to copy the script file here. Alright, so now I have access to Bootstrap. Let me get the navbar from the navbar section. So I'm going to quickly run through this. Alright, so now I'll just change this to let me tick. Okay, I need a search. I need the list, the drop down. I don't need the drop down. I'm going to take the drop down out. I don't need disabled. Okay, let me maintain this. So whole product. Let me add more products, more links to it. So product, let me make this new product. Product. And then FAQ for questions. All right. And let me go back here. We have our navigation bar. All right. So now I want to take this to the middle. Let me see M. All right. So this is looking good now. So we have the navigation bar. Let me keep some margins around this. So let me take the fill that way. Okay, so this is looking fine now. All right. So I don't need this color. So I just take this off. Then change it in the CSS. So nav bar on the background to be MC indigo. All right. Now let me change the color of the nav links. So nav link. So dot nav bar dot nav link. Let me change the color to white. All right. And then I need the nav bar brand. Let me just select all the A tags so that I move faster. So nav bar, all the A tags in the nav bar. All right. And just change the button to danger. All right. So our nav bar is looking fine now. So now I can add some products. Let me see Jumbotron. Let me just use the card for the home page. So bootstrap card. All right. Let me get the first card here. That's how I'm going to load the product. So below here, and just create a comment here. The product. I'm going to put that card here, but before I place the card, I'm going to have another div here. So I'll just name this container, and then I'll use an H1 and say all products. And take this to the center, so text center. This is the bootstrap class to take the text to the center. All right. So I need to create some spaces. So let me just do MT, no, MY, let's say 5, so that I get margin for the top and bottom of this. All right. All right. So now I can add the product. Let me do row. And I need 3 products on a row. So I need to create 3 columns. So for large screens, I'll say 4, and then medium screens, I need 2, so I just say 6. So you can ignore the for medium screens because it automatically resize it. But if you don't need it, you just take it. So you need to remove this width here, and then inside the img, let's say width 100%, so that it will take 100% of the space available to it. All right. Now let me just get one image from this and render it so that I know how the container looks like. Okay, the container looks great. So here we just change it to the product title. Let's say biscuits 1. You can leave this text or just edit it. So I just change this text to add to cart. Right, it's looking nice now. Then we'll give some margins at the top so that when more products are loaded, it's going to create a space at the top, and then other products will not be attached to other products. Okay. So now we have our div ready and then the product also ready. Now just print horizontal row here. Alright. So now for us to render the product, that's our JSON file, to our HTML here, we need to get an element inside the HTML to show that. So I'm just going to add one class. So let's say show product. Right. So this div will display all the products we have in our JSON file here. And let me just select that in JavaScript. So let's say let show product should be equal to, or let me do product DOM so that it makes sense. Say product should be equal to document query selector, and then we want to select the class we created here, show product. Okay. We are using a dot because it's a class, but if it was an ID, you have to use an hashtag, just like you do with your CSS file. Alright. So now we need to use the fetch keyword to fetch our JSON file. Right. So let's say dot, and then let me see where I get this file. Okay. So this is the JSON file. So you need to load that file here, and then first you have to check if there's any error. So I'm just going to create a simple function. So let's say response. There's an arrow function, and then you check. So you say if the response. Let me just make it short. If the response is not okay, just console log this. So console.log an error occurred loading file. Alright. So now if there's no error, then you have to return the response. So let's say return response. Alright. So since the JSON file, we have to add a .json, else it won't work. Alright. So now we can load the product. So let's do another then. So then I'm just going to create this variable here. So let's say product, then the same arrow function, and then now I should get the product when I console log this. Let me do console.log product. So now I have to check if the products are showing in your browser's console. If it's not, then you have to go back and then check. Alright, so from here I have all the products in my JSON file loaded here. Okay. So now the last one, you can even ignore this. So say catch, let's say error. Let's say error function. Let me just console log the error. Alright. So now since you have a product showing in our browser's console now, we can now render it to this DOM. Okay. So the DOM is just the HTML element to show the product. Okay. So now we need to loop through the product. Okay. So you say product dot for each. Okay. So take this array off. We don't need this. So product dot for each. And then here I'm just going to change this to, let's say, product. Okay. That'll be the variable name. So for product, so this will just loop all the products we have in our JSON file. It's going to run everything. Okay. So for product in product, here you want to add it to this HTML element. Okay. So just say product dot inner HTML. So I'm going to use a backticks here. You have to say plus equals, so that it will auto increase, like auto increment it, so that all the products will be loaded on the page. Okay. If you don't do the plus equals, it's just going to show one product. Right. So you have to do plus equals so that to keep adding all the products you have in your JSON file. So I'm just going to copy this div. I'm going to take it out, and then I'll paste it inside this backticks here. So now the issue is that if you use a backticks, you get access to add variables inside the HTML here. Okay. So now we want to change this image. We want to dynamically load it from our JSON file. Okay. I'm going to use the $sign here, and then I'll pass product dot, let me get the name here. So product image, that's a name to get access to the image. Okay. So product image. Now I have to change the title to, so you need your $sign and then look at the brackets. So product dot product name. All right. And there's one thing I omitted, the product price. Let me bring that below here. So product dot product. Let me copy it. So product dot product price. So that will show the price of that particular project, of that particular product. Okay. All right. Let me just bring a dollar sign here. Okay. Now we have add to cart. Now let's go back to our HTML here, and then you can see that I have all our products loaded on our web page here directly from our JSON file. Okay, so that's how you can create a JSON file and then load it inside your HTML. Alright, so you can create an e-commerce website using your JSON file. Alright. Also, with this, if you have any comments, you can just leave it in the comment section below, and then I'll respond to it. Alright.